Hello,
What's
Coach.
good? How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I am so happy to have you on my Zoom meeting today, Zooming with Kaymitch. I'm happy to have you on here. So without further ado, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Wonderful. This is Erik DeRoo. I'm with Texas Tech women's basketball and assistant coach. I'm sorry if there's glares here. I literally just walked
No,
into
it
this
was
hotel
fine.
room. The lighting's awful, so I'm glad to be here though.
Yes, you're fine. You're fine. So without further ado, let's get started. First question. So how can future assistants and GAs separate themselves from others?
So for me, the first thing is I won't say obvious, but obviously networking. I think the more people you know and more people that know you give you the opportunity to know what's available, to know what's out there in regards to job opportunities and where your next step might lie. The next is some type of skill set.
Mm-hmm.
What I've seen in players that are finishing their career or GAs that are finishing up, they're great workers. Every athlete's a great worker, whether people want to
Right.
talk about that or not. Like I think if you're willing to be a college student athlete, like you have the opportunity to be a great worker. And then if you want to live in the college athletic space for your career, you almost have to be a great worker. And so like that's like the bare minimum, right? That's what everybody has. And so like, the next piece is what skill set do you bring to the table that puts you above somebody else on a resume pile? So obviously the first layer of most job searches is does the head coach know who you are? That gives you like the very first opportunity to have a job opportunity if something's open. The next is
Right.
if the head coach doesn't know you or doesn't know who they want to hire, they ask their staff or their inner circle who they want to hire. And so then there's names based off that network that they have of filling a position. The third is the resume piece. Is if the head coach doesn't know you or doesn't know who they want to hire or their inner
Uh-huh.
circle doesn't know have a good name, the third piece would be the resume piece. And so for me, like if you have a skill set that would be an outlier on your resume, that
Mhm.
gives you an opportunity. Like, and a skill set being understanding the video element of it, or sports code, or synergy. The next being potentially graphic design or video work
Yes.
for Photoshop, things of that nature. I think those are two obvious ones that stick out. The not as obvious ones might be just logistical event planning. And then a lot of coaches start their career as director of basketball operations, and that's all logistical planning. And so, even having a skill set, understanding budgets and how to build an itinerary and things of that nature are equally as successful of the ground levels of becoming a coach. So, again, my two answers would be networking and then building a skill set that you can showcase to others.
That's great. One thing that my head coach, and it's kind of different because here we just have one GA, so I'm having to kind of have my hands dipped in everything. But one thing she's really been harping on me about is like, okay, you need to go with our other assistant and really learn how to do graphics and Photoshop and everything. Because if you can do those, she was like, you can kind of find another assistant job pretty easily rather than, like the basic of being a hard worker and everything like that. So thank you. That was great insight. Number two, how important is mental health to you in college basketball?
So it's something that has been increasingly more important to me as I've educated myself and been educated on this space. So I was super fortunate. My graduate master's degree was in sports psychology, so that lives in the mental health space and understanding how to treat your athletes and how to give them the best opportunity to be successful on and off the court. And so I have an educational background in sports psychology, which again gives me opportunity to know more about the mental health space or maybe give more empathy in the mental health space.
Mhm.
As a former student athlete myself, again, lower levels of college basketball, I always struggled with performance anxiety and
Yeah.
just everything that comes with that. And I think I wish I would have had tools to understand how to live past those barriers that I had set on myself. And I think people don't understand because some people don't experience performance anxiety or things that live in the mental health space. And so
Right.
I think the empathy piece and the education piece for others around you is equally as hard as like you dealing with it yourself. And so I think I have a huge empathy piece with
Mhm.
any student athlete that deals with any type of mental health struggle, whether it's performance and their sport related or not. And so
Mhm.
I think it's becoming a bigger conversation piece, which is fantastic. At Tech, in my last role before I was an assistant here, I was able to kind of push forward what we call the growth guide, but it's really a basically a 10 to 12 month sports psychology, mental health calendar where we have conversations about the mental health space. We have conversations about sports psychology.
Mhm.
We have intentional things for our coaching staff to learn more about our players beyond their sport and how
Right.
we can coach and teach them better. And so I think all those things give you the ability to enhance and be better in the mental health space for student athletes. But it's something that it's an ongoing conversation in the space of college athletics, which I think is the best thing forward. And I think the old school way of coaching used to be the coach's way or the highway. And I
Mm-hmm.
think the coaches that are adapting the best are realizing that every student athlete is an individual and needed to be treated so.
Right.
And the ones that are doing that and seeing every student athlete for face value, who they are, and adjusting and trying to help every individual succeed individually and make it a cohesive team are the ones that are seeing the most success outside of simply just having talent on the roster.
Absolutely. I like how you worded it about seeing people for individuals for who they are and not just a player. Like you said, the old school way might just be like, well, yelling, 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 but everybody, don't respond that way. Or some people you can yell at, but other you got to pull to the side. So it's really about learning your individual players. And like you said, now bringing them together as a group, knowing how each person work and how they click and everything like that. So that's great. I love how y'all are doing that. Third, what skills do you use daily to motivate your players?
So it's an interesting question because like I try to sit here and think like what am I intentional about? And I think what me personally, this isn't for anybody else in my staff or whatever, but like I try to fill my players with confidence and positivity. And I try to make them smile every day. And I'm not like a funny, like I try not to make jokes. That's just not who I am. I'm not a funny person.
Mm-hmm.
But I want our players to smile because I want them to know that they're in a space that they can be themselves. And again, it's not a transactional relationship, meaning it
Right.
doesn't matter how many points they score, how many minutes they play, that I still care about them regardless. And I want them to have confidence of their basketball ability, one, but two, that of who they are as a person. And that who they are is enough for me in our program and in the space and in our community. And so I think the biggest thing that I try to do is have open conversations and dialogue with our players constantly,
Mm-hmm.
making sure they hear from somebody that I'm proud of them. I try to tell our players that I'm proud of them in as many settings as I can. I try to tell players that I enjoy watching them play basketball as much as I can. Because again, like a lot of our sport is that player's identity. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, that's just reality.
It is.
And so I think the hearing from someone that you respect or is in a higher position as a coach, like hearing from them that you're proud of them and or that they're proud of you and that I enjoy watching you play basketball, like a very subtle thing, but can fill somebody's bucket when they probably need to be filled because a lot of
Right.
college student athletes live with an empty bucket. It's
Mm-hmm.
like it's my job, at least I take it as my job to fill our players' buckets as much as possible. Does that mean I'm soft? Probably not. Like I still, get
Get
on to
on
our
it. Yeah.
players. I still critique their games. I still have standards and our staff has standards for our student athletes. But
Mhm.
at the end of the day, like I coach young women that they deserve to have confidence in every element
Right.
of their lives. And so it would be against my best judgment to tear them down or to put them in a place where they don't have confidence. That's not okay. And like especially at the level Division I athletics or even at higher level the Big 12 Power 5 basketball, they're elite. Every one of our
Right.
players is elite at the game.
Exactly.
And for them to feel like they're not is just taking away any element of their highest level of success. And so my job is to make sure that they feel important and proud, someone that's proud of them and appreciative of what they're there and doing.
That's great. That's one thing I'm gonna have to make sure that I'm doing as well is really filling my players bucket, being in that graduate position and just making sure that they know like somebody care for them and welcoming them and excited to watch them play. Absolutely. Like next question. What's most important to you when recruiting players?
The first is honestly the evaluation of your own program. And so like understanding your needs first. And so like, this 2024 class, we only had one open scholarship, so we can only take one player. And so it would be foolish of us to recruit and offer a bunch of players knowing that only one can have it. So I think the first step is especially the coach is evaluating your program first and foremost. The second would probably be evaluating the talent at hand and seeing what's available, what's the best option, and what your needs are. So if you need a point guard, evaluating one, the players that best fit you from that point guard category, and two, to be honest, like the ones that you can achievably go get for your program at the college level. And that's, the positive of being a college coach is in fairness, you get to pick your roster, but you're at the kind of liberty of the type of players that want to go to your university. And so not
Right.
every player wants to come to Texas Tech because of geographical regions, because
Right.
of closeness to home, or majors or whatever it may be. And so like the evaluation of talent, both from a basketball standpoint, but to the understanding who of your recruiting pile or your players are willing to come to Texas Tech or have open to have that conversation. The next, and this is probably a two-way street, but consistency and transparency within the recruiting process. I think players would get recruited by different staffs in different ways across the board. And the best way that I can explain how I feel like I want to recruit or I try to recruit is through consistency. And I try to be transparent from the first conversation I have, how long my phone calls are going to be, how often I'm going to plan on calling or texting. And the goal would be, I don't want to feel like I need to talk to you every week and vice versa. Like at the end of the day, like I'm a 32-year-old guy who loves to coach basketball, recruiting 15 to 22-year-old female student athletes. Like I don't want to go into a space where I'm contacting them too much or there's any type of uncomfortability there. Like it's still a professional relationship that you have to build and trust. And so I feel like transparency from my end is being open and honest in how often of contact, and then being consistent in what I say that I'm going to do and following through. And so I think those are the big pieces that I look for in the recruiting process, at least on my end.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. Lastly, how does it feel being undefeated right now in the non-conference?
You know, we're the first team in Division I athletics or Division I women's basketball this season to be 10-0. And like the goal, we play again on Wednesday, and that would be 11-0 if we can pull that one off. And I think, you know, just thinking about this question, it just shows that we're building this thing the right way. And, you know, for a lot of people that don't know what Texas Tech women's basketball has gone through in the recent years, like, you know, when Coach Gurley took the program over, it was in tough shape, just for lack of better terms. It was in a bad position in women's basketball. And, you know, her first year, they won 10 games. It was a midst of COVID. She took the program over late, and they won 10 games, and we're already at 10.
Right.
And, you know, year two, that team won 11 games. And again, we're 5 days away from one more potential win that could put us to 11. And so I think just showing that, you know, 11 games in our season, we can match the win records of the first and second years of the rebuild. Just show that we're doing this thing the right way with the right players, and we're learning as a staff and making sure our players in the best position to succeed. You know, I would love to say that we're going to go through the entire season winning them all, and that's just not reality for any team, let alone the one that we're building right now. But I think the words that come to me are like just very proud of our student athletes and our players who have bought in. And I love our staff's way of looking at things. We are very much one game at a time. Even when you have hard games coming up, but we've had hard games on our schedule like that you know, could easily have looked forward to. But we're trying to win one game at a time. And, you know, it's not one game has been perfect by any means. You know, some of the scores are closer than you want them to be. But I think when you walk away, realize that every win's a good win, regardless of who you played and what the final score is, then you can walk away proud. I think the coaches who are frustrated with performances after you know, a minimal victory are the ones that are just going to be bitter inside forever. And so I have to continue to tell myself, regardless of the margin of victory of who you play against or whatever, that every win is a good win because you did the job that you're supposed to do. And perfection is so hard to reach. And it's such an objectionable thing to look at. And so, you know, I think we all have goals within our scouting reports every single game. And, you know, we're trying to meet as many goals as possible. You have to also realize that we're playing against other Division I schools who have similar goals and similar aspirations. And so like, at the end of the day, like the biggest goal is, did you win or did you lose? And at this point, we won all, you know, the ones that we've had on our schedule. And so, you know, I'm just super proud of our players. I just love that they're getting to see success and their hard work pay off, but just very proud of our kids.
Excellent. Excellent. I appreciate you so much for being on my Zoom call today. Thank you for squeezing out time to talk to me and everything, giving great insight. I will let you know when it's uploaded and everything, but I wish y'all the best of the luck. Thank you so much, Coach.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.